I'm getting out of this.
Help, I'm pushing up.
Rotate.
Bruno, they're rotating back. They're rotating back.
They're gonna go. Just rotate, guys. Just rotate. Give it up. Just give it up.
Right.
Nice. Rotate.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Rotation Podcast with Zach Worhack. I know I've been away for a long time, and I apologize to you guys for that. I've really just been grinding out and working to try and make the podcast sound better and look better. As you know, it was all audio before, and now I got OBS, and I've just messed around with some overlays and things like that. And, you know, it's improving day by day. There's still a lot of room for improvement to get better, but I've been itching to get back on the mic and talk esports with everyone out there. And we're sticking to strictly Call of Duty on this episode of The Rotation. You know, that's my first love. It's my passion. Before we get into all that, though, make sure you guys follow the podcast on Twitter. I created its own page. It's The Rotation Podcast with Zach Worhack. The @ name, I think, is RotationW_ZHack. So rotation with ZHack, except instead of a slash, it's an underscore, because for whatever reason, all of these names were taken. So that's kind of what I rolled with. But I'm really excited to get back to you guys and get all the feedback in the world. But we got a lot of Call of Duty to talk about. Black Ops 4, the competitive season is just around the corner, folks. It is a couple of weeks away. December 7th through the 9th is what we're talking about, CWL Vegas. That's going to be huge. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the podcast, but I got to start things off with the most recent tournaments. The 2K and the $2,500 Prodown, those were kind of split up. So we're going to start with the Prodown because that's where we saw the elite teams get into it. And I'm fast forwarding straight to the finals. I don't care about any of the other storylines that happened in between, whether it be Splice, E-United. It's all about what I predicted back in May. Literally back in May, I said that the competition this year in Call of Duty was going to be versus 100 Thieves and OpTic Gaming, just because it had to be, right? That's the storyline that has been developing throughout the whole offseason, with Nadeshot dabbling into Call of Duty, getting back into it, creating his own roster, and a pretty darn good one at that. But my God, OpTic Gaming just looks unstoppable at this point in time. But we know everything changes when the first LAN event of the year comes. So we're starting with all the 2Ks. OpTic has won a couple of those, and then they win the $2,500 Prodown now, the big one with the big hitters that were involved in it. And they're the team to beat. They're going to be the favorite going into CWL Vegas. But I mean, what it is the rivalry between 100 Thieves and OpTic Gaming has already begun. And that's what I've been mentioning and what I've been talking about, me saying since May. I've sort of laid out the storyline that once Nadeshot got his own organization, I knew that he would be very quick on the rise and come to the up and up, just because the people that he knows from the past and the people that he's surrounding himself with in the present right now. You know, Hex was the CEO of OpTic Gaming, has been and still is for such a long time, the 30-something-year-old phenom he is now. But Nadeshot, that's where he started. You all watched the podcast where it was the old Scuff House with all those guys. It was Big T, Nadeshot, Scump, and Hex. You heard the story that Nadeshot sort of moved in with Hex when he was having bad stuff going on in his personal life, and that's where it started. That's where the duo of Hex and Nadeshot started. Nade got into the competitive scene to play, and then as a content creator, and the rest is sort of history. So I kind of segue that into the fact that those two guys have known each other for a long time. They have stayed good friends. They have stayed in touch, and I guarantee you that Nadeshot has been calling Hex up, asking him about advice of being the CEO and the organization runner, and how Hex sort of worked things with OpTic Gaming, and how Nadeshot can implement that into what he's trying to do with 100 Thieves. Nadeshot was literally just in Texas for a week long, somewhere around that kind of time frame. He was hanging out with Seth, Scump, Abner, and he was hanging out with Hex the whole time. Yeah, they were having fun. Yeah, they were hanging out, but I guarantee there were some business meetings on the rise there. And Nade is going to continue to keep picking Hex's brain, and it's going to work for him. That's how he's going to build up 100 Thieves. You've seen he's got one of the best rosters in Call of Duty, and they were head-to-head in the finals of the $2,500 Prodown. Granted, 100 Thieves kind of got whooped by OpTic. They got swept in 4, but I mean, that's the competition that's going to be there for the remainder of the season. I talked about it in the comparison earlier of Star Wars, in where Nadeshot is the Padawan and Hex is the Jedi. And I think that eventually Nadeshot, he might turn into Luke Skywalker and take over what Hex is in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's going to kind of, use the skill set and the advice that he gains from Hex, and I think from there, he's going to segue that into a successful organization, and then eventually what happened between Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke Skywalker was the man, he defeated Darth Vader, and I don't see why Nadeshot can't do that. I don't see why Nadeshot can't become the best in the business, but I mean, Hex has quite a mighty throne that Nadeshot's going to have to build up to, but I just love that comparison, and I love seeing that this is the start of the rivalry. It's new faces and old clashing together between 100 Thieves and OpTic Gaming, but man, do the boys from the Green Wall look absolutely dominant. They were competing against the top organizations in this tournament. I think throughout all the 2Ks, the online tournaments, maybe they've dropped 3 maps or somewhere close to that, but someone has to figure out how to stop them because they're playing kick-ass Call of Duty right now, OpTic Gaming is, and I don't know who it's going to be to stop them. 100 Thieves had their hand at it twice. They got sent into the losers bracket in the 2500 Prodown by OpTic Gaming, and then they had another shot at the grand finals, but it's just those little kinks that 100 Thieves needs to work out, I think, but you have to talk about it. OpTic Gaming, the champions of the first couple of 2Ks, including that one right there, and they're the team to knock off. Everything changes on LAN. I know a lot of teams are looking at that, but you can't discount or write off OpTic Gaming and say, I don't think they're the favorites coming into to CWO Vegas because, it's just online. You never know what's going to happen. And you really don't. TK came out and won the first event back in World War II, and it was a sort of a shock to everyone, but they kept on continuing to work and get better throughout the LAN season. So I think this year OpTic has a very good chance because Scump is playing, to whereas he was non-existent in World War II. No offense, but he'll admit it. He kind of sucked in World War II. He wasn't the best player. So these guys are all learning off of one another in these online tournaments, and they're seeing what kind of strats to run, what's going on, and they're going to bring that to LAN. And it's just exciting. I'm so hyped for CWO Vegas, but we got to slow down a little bit. Before we go and talk there, you have to give credit to the actual 2K that was being played, and it was Team Spacely. Those guys, Spacely, Havoc, Nagafin, Major Maniac, and Mox. They sort of teed off. They popped off and ran through the competition in that 2K, and it was fun to watch those guys, and I think they have a pretty good shot of becoming a good team on LAN and competing. They're clicking together, and it's the first time I've sort of seen those guys picked apart from different orgs work together, because over the past few years, Havoc has bounced around between so many different teams. He was on C9, Gone Gaming, Evil Geniuses, and he flipped around and had to fight through open bracket after Evil Geniuses, and he wasn't in pool play anymore. And a big part of that is because the chemistry that came along with his teams. With EG, it was him, Nameless, Nagafin, and those guys were kind of killing it back in the day. And then Parasite was there. He joined a little later on with the roster. And personalities just clashed, I think. And that's what made them, ultimately unsuccessful in winning a championship back in Infinite Warfare, excuse me. But now Havoc has the team to compete. And the personalities are working really well together, and the strats are going. Spacely and Maniac, they're kind of taking charge, but it's really good vibes with that team. And Havoc loves teaming with Nagafin. Those two guys are two peas in a pod. I remember a couple of years ago, I was actually at Anaheim when Havoc was on the main stage with EG, and those two guys were hanging out the whole time, man. It was after the tournaments at night, even when they got knocked out, they were hanging out together. It was Havoc and Nagafin, and I stepped in and talked to those two guys, and they were like, yeah, we really like teaming together, and we think we have a good thing going here with EG. And eventually that diminished. That organization kind of dismantled with those players, and it's kind of hard to team with all these hard-hitting personalities, but now they have the team. And let me remind you, they're still orgless. No one has picked that team up, and I have no idea why, because they're going to have to battle through the play-in. That's something new that's coming this year to competitive Call of Duty. But those guys will battle through the play-in and hopefully make it to pool play in Vegas. But I mean, for now, 2K champs, and they're the reigning defending champs. I know the big hitters, like I mentioned, they were playing in the Prodown tournament. It was like E United, Splice, 100 Thieves, OpTic. I think there may have been a couple more scattered throughout there. So, I mean, those guys didn't have to go through that. And let's face it, it might have been a little bit different story if those hard-hitting teams were there to compete against. But even beforehand in the past 2K, Spacely, Havoc, Nagafin, Maniac, and Mox, they've been competing. And I like to see it. I think this is a fun Call of Duty to watch, and it's a really cool one to see all the online tournaments going back to being streamed. But we have to talk about the big elephant in the room and how fun this Call of Duty is to watch. 5v5 is sweet. I mean, I love it personally. I know everyone was sort of mixed and mashed on their opinions coming into 5v5 because they thought, wow, this is tough because we have to find a fifth to pick up, and that's hard to do. But there's so many players with a lot of talent, like those guys like Havoc, who were floating around super talented but haven't been picked up as a fourth for an org back in World War II. But I mean, now with the fifth, those guys are the complementary ones. And you look for those role players who can pop off, enter the hard point, and kind of play whatever role you need them to, whether it be slaying or OBJ. I mean, they're there for you, and they were free agents and they're on the market. And now you go ahead and find them, and 5v5 becomes a whole different story. I think the positive side of it is 5v5 is a lot faster paced, first of all. But there's a lot more strategy involved. The maps are kind of iffy in Black Ops 4, and there's the favorites that these guys have that they're playing so far, but you have to work around the 5v5 aspect. There are a lot more trades that are involved from what I've seen watching the 2K tournaments, a lot more squad wipes where you can get a full 5-piece and really move quickly to trap those spawns and take advantage of that and play around the map and work your strats from there. So I think 5v5 is definitely a positive thing to bring to Call of Duty. It's the perfect number. 4v4, the map could have been a little bit more spaced out and it took more time to travel and cover once your player went down. But 5v5, I think with the size of maps that are implemented in Black Ops 4, it fills the space perfectly, and it allows trades to happen, comms and callouts and strats to totally be in full effect in this Call of Duty. And I think the fast-pacedness of it has been something that we haven't seen in a while, and it's going to be exciting to watch Call of Duty again. There was definitely a lull in World War II, in my opinion, to whereas competitive was just competitive. You know, there wasn't as much of hype surrounding it, and fans weren't really as much of into it. You know, the only big matches that were watched were the ones where OpTic Gaming and LG were in it because Formal was playing his old squad, and those got the huge viewership numbers. And I think that's going to be completely different this year because back to what Nadeshot has done, 100 Thieves has built a name around him. And I think, as weird as it sounds, Fortnite has helped Call of Duty because so many pros that have signed on with orgs have brought attention to the organization, and now all those Fairweather fans who came over and are like, yeah, I like 100 Thieves because these guys that play Fortnite with them, or I like OpTic because, you know, Baldy is on the Fortnite team. Those guys come in and then they're interested in Call of Duty a little bit. They think, oh man, yeah, 100 Thieves. I saw on Twitter that they tweeted out that they're playing a huge match against OpTic Gaming or whatever it may be. I'm going to go check into that. And that's going to be great for the viewership for the Call of Duty World League. And I'm just so excited to watch that, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the first LAN. December 7th to the 9th is CWL Vegas, and I'm so hyped for that. I know all the casters are. Joe, he's been in there. Merc, Joe DeLuca, you guys know him. He's been on Twitter saying, I can't wait to cast Control. Maven is excited. Benson, all these guys are getting really, really excited for the Call of Duty World League season, and I think that you did not see that last year. They were kind of dragging around and slowly going through the motions and getting through World War II, but Call of Duty's back, baby. I mean, it's as simple as that. Black Ops 4 has brought new life to the game. Players love playing it. You see guys waking up and tweeting, they say, I heart COD. I love COD. I'm excited to get better today. I love playing Call of Duty. Let's team scrim. Let's do this. And they are just grinding and grinding and grinding online, and it's so fun to watch. transitioning with that online grind comes a topic that is hard hitting to a lot of these guys online, and it's one that really makes me upset that these guys are doing this. And I don't know if you all know where I'm going, but I'm talking about gentlemen's agreement. I think gentlemen's agreements are the stupidest thing in online play, and I know you have your argument to prove me different, but let me hit you where I'm coming, because I have my own opinion. I'm going to state it, and I'm going to come at you with it. Gentlemen agreements are the dumbest thing because, okay, right now in the first rule set, there were a couple iffy things, but I mean, you get Ajax banned. That was the big one that no one liked at the beginning of the season, but now the topic of discussion sort of switches over to the grappling hook is the biggest one from Rune, because especially in Search and Destroy, you basically get it every round, and you can kind of rotate and get somewhere so quick right off the start of the round and be in position to take out the other team. Adjust. Don't gentleman's agreement it throughout the game, because you know what's going to happen if you're playing with no grappling hook and you're agreeing to scrim like that with other teams is what we've seen before. Teams in open bracket and teams that are in the play-in matches this year, they don't care. They're trying to fight and grind to be a top dog and make their name known and get into the top 20 of pool play and then hopefully make it to winner's bracket. They have brought so many new strats, teams out of open bracket in past games. You've seen smokes and different guns being used, and it's different than the OSA. We all remember the OSA, and everyone hated that, and that was Gentleman's Dawn, but I think you have to learn with it, because the OSA eventually won the first event of Infinite Warfare back to Call of Duties ago, and I would not be scrimming with stuff GA'd, because it's not a good idea, because that team is going to come out of open bracket and they're going to use it, and you haven't scrimmed with it. Your timing is off because you don't know how fast they're going to be somewhere, and eventually it's going to hurt you, and that might be a shocking upset match where OpTic Gaming, E United, Splice, FaZe Clan, they can get knocked off because they've been playing with GAs, and this team like UYU is coming out of the play-in matches and they use it, and it's like, what the heck is going on? Something different is flying at me, and I really don't know how to counter it. And the players will be upset. They're like, what the heck? That's the dumbest thing ever. But you shouldn't have played with GAs. I think it's just an all-around bad idea to be playing with stuff GA'd, because it can come back at you and you're not going to know how to counter it. And it's going to be completely different, because the rule set is the rule set. Like, that's all legal on land in CWL Vegas. Everything that is in the current rule set, number 1 for Black Ops 4 CWL, like, that's fair game. The grappling hook right now, that's fair game. And I know GA, I think another one that was talked about was assault packs, and I can see how that's a game changer because streaks come a little quicker if you pick one of those up. But none of that is banned right now, and I think that you have to play with it in scrims, although a lot of the teams aren't. So it'll be interesting to see how that aspect of Call of Duty competitive on LAN switches up once they get to Vegas. And with that being said, I'm so excited. I am so hyped to talk about Vegas. I'm not making it out for that one this year, which I'm kind of bummed about, because we saw Adam Apicella come out and tweet. He's the main guy for MLG. Everyone knows him. He tweets out that there's over 2,000 competitors and coaches combined in Vegas. And I mean, the setting. Did you hear the city I said? CWL Las Vegas. Like, it's going to be partying and Call of Duty. Let's face it, for 3 or 4 days. And it's going to be a blast for the competitors, but also the fans coming in. I mean, they're sold out of team passes. The open admittance, those passes are pretty much gone, so you can't get in general admission anymore, and it's going to be a packed arena, and it's going to be super exciting to watch, because I've been to one event, and I'm going to way more this year, because I'm trying to network and meet people in the esports community, because it's what I want to do. I love it, and I want to get out there, and I want to have a job in it, and that's why I'm bringing you the Rotation podcast right now, because I'm trying to make my name made and make waves out there. So I'm going to be at a lot more events this year. But I get back to that. I digress, because I went to Anaheim a couple of years ago in Infinite Warfare, and it was such an intimate environment. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life, because you're hand in hand, face to face with all these professional players, and it's so cool to be with them, and you just kind of got to act cool and say, yo, what's up, man? How's it going? Like, it's nice to meet you, and then take a picture with them and get out of there. And it's just crazy how you can meet all them. For comparison, it's like going to an NFL meet and greet and like Tom Brady is just right there and you're like, holy cow. Like, that's Tom Brady. And you just go up to him and say, hey, how's it going? That's how it is for so many of these kids when they're like, Seth, Scump, Crim6, Octane, what's up, guys? How's it going? It's so exciting for them and overwhelming almost that they're in the presence and they're meeting their favorite player. And that's why I love LAN events so much, because the intimacy of them makes everything so much more hype. I know that at Vegas, there's a $250,000 prize pool on the line, and that's in and of itself, what the players are really grinding for and competing to hoist that trophy and make that big cash. But I mean, at the end of the day, the fans bring it, because you're on LAN. You're not just in your bedroom with nobody else around like I am right now at my setup. If I was playing an online GB and I win, I go, let's go. Like, that's all there is. Like, there's not that much excitement behind it. To whereas you're on main stage, you pick up a three-piece to end round 11 of a search and destroy map 5. You go, let's go. You got your teammates there. You're dapping them up. You look out and it's just the crowd and they're going wild. That's what makes LAN absolutely insane. And that's why I'm so excited for Vegas. And with that being said, Adam Apicella and those guys at MLG and Blizzard, they're hand in hand. They've been working so hard to make these events so great this year. And I think that we're going to see something we haven't ever seen before in Call of Duty. I know at the main offices back in Columbus, Adam Apicella has been saying they're renovating. They're adding a new competition desk for main stage that's going to be transferable, that they're able to bring out a new analyst desk. And there's just so much stuff going on that's going to be elite, and it's going to raise the bar for the broadcasting side of things for Call of Duty, which is where I'm going to be. If you can't make it out to the event in Vegas, you bet I'm going to be watching it on Twitch, and that stuff, it pays dividends to put money into it and change stuff out, bring in new overlays and scenes and graphics to make the broadcast look so much more crisp. And Adam Apicella and those guys, they're going all out to do that, and I'm very excited for Vegas for that reason, to watch the stream. The talent, it's really good this year. Maven, the caster of the year, he's back on the desk. There's been mixed reviews on him and people saying he just yells. I don't like that, man. I love Maven. He brings excitement to it. Call of Duty is a different beast. It's not like casting a football or volleyball or basketball game, which is the stuff that I do. That you have to pick your points to get excited, and it's kind of not the same hype surrounding it. But Call of Duty, heck yeah, scream all you want. Oh, a big kill, sweet shots, things of that nature that you're coming out with. And those are the plays and the broadcast like that echoes throughout the arena that makes things so exciting. Like, just imagine this. Set the scene. OpTic Gaming versus, let's just say 100 Thieves for the sake of the rivalry. In the grand finals, search and destroy round 11, if it happens, it's... Who do you want? You want Kenny, Enable, Pharaoh, Octane? Let's do Octane versus, let's say, Crim6, 1v1, search and destroy, round 11, and they're rotating. And you see those guys coming up, and Maven has the call, and he's in spectator mode. He sees everything, and Octane right now peeking the corner, but here comes Crim6 coming around. Who's going to win? The shots go down. Octane with the kill, and 100 Thieves are your champions for CWL Las Vegas. How exciting is that? Don't make fun of Maven for yelling, man. He's one of the best to do it, and you guys will be sad to know that you're just kind of a jerk if you're bringing him down, and he doesn't really care. So that's the excitement behind Vegas. So now we're going to go into the pools. The drawing was today, nameless. Nice job, my man, pulling out those little scripts, doing your little smiley face at the top. We got to start with Pool A. I mean, that's the very first one to go to. 100 Thieves, E United, Team Reciprocity, and then what they're doing is the play-in. So there's 8 teams in the play-in this year, and those guys are competing. The top 4 of them get into pool play along with a different open bracket team competing against the 256 other, or however the bracket is set out for it. So we'll just talk about the 3 for now, and then I'll get into who I think the play-in teams are going to be to make waves and finally get into pool play and maybe, just maybe, test some of these bigger top dog organizations. So, I mean, you have some good names there. Like I mentioned, 100 Thieves already. Kenny, Octane, Enable, Pharaoh, Slasher. That's their roster. E United, Clayster, Pristini, Arsenides, the 2 brothers, Abizi, and then JCap got picked up by E United. And I personally think Clayster has been playing some of the nicest Call of Duty in Black Ops 4. So with them and 100 Thieves, I think those are the two favorites. But Reciprocity, Wuskin, Tommy, Zed, Shawnee, and Dens, that roster was kind of interchangeable and moved over to Reciprocity. I think that they're going to have a learning experience at Vegas. I don't know if they're going to come out of pool play. I think the two favorites are definitely 100 Thieves and E United. But like I mentioned, it's not online anymore. LAN is a completely different beast, and all these teams are going to competing their hearts out, trying to make it to the grand finals and win that $250,000 prize pool for those teams. But breaking that down, I think Pool A, 100 Thieves has the best shot to be the favorite coming out of there. They've been clicking really well. Kenny has gone on and talked about it. The team vibes are just really good right now. There's not a lot of heads butting and animosity between anyone. They have their little arguments after matches, but every team does. And that's just, you got to work out the cobwebs, figure out the chemistry with your new roster because you're teaming with these guys for the first time. And then you get out of it and you play like 100 Thieves is right now. And I think they're the favorite to come out of Pool A. Moving on to Pool B now, this one's a toss-up. Luminosity Gaming, well, they've got 2 or 3 weeks to put some work in and kind of learn because they haven't been too hot in Black Ops 4 so far. And then you have Red Reserve. Things are a little bit different with all these EU teams now because they're not restricted to the regional stuff that they were in previous years. So you can have NA guys with the EU guys and the APAC guys. It doesn't matter. There's no restrictions with roster. So that makes it interesting with Red Reserve, and then Evil Geniuses is the last team that got drawn in to that pool today. And then, like I said, you have the play-in losers and then an open bracket team as well. But man, I think Red Reserves off the rip is just the favorite to come out of that pool. Granted, I know you have the two big ARs in Gunless and Formal on Luminosity Gaming, but they just got to click a little bit better, get their strats down, and I mean, the first LAN event of the year, it'll be a lot to show, and I think that they might come out and surprise some people, but really right now, I think my favorite is with Red Reserve. We saw what those guys did back in World War II and how hard they just grind the game out and learn from their mistakes and come back and just continue to get better. So I think that's the team to look out for. Joe, Rated, Zero, Scraps, and Bance. I think they're the ones in Pool B to be the top dogs, and then I mean, it's a toss-up between LG and Evil Geniuses, so I'll leave those guys up to let their play and do the talking for Pool B, and then move on to Pool C now. FaZe Clan, Team Envy, and Team Mad Cat, who I think is another one that might be Orgless still. So FaZe, you have Zuma, Attach, Crowder, Priesta, and Methods. And then Envy, you bring in Aches, Huke, Silly, Apathy, Assault. And then that Team Mad Cat, which we round out the pool play in Pool C with, is himself, PD, Alex, Josh. I don't know, man. That's another tough one. I don't think that we really have any group of death right now. I think that would be Pool A in the first couple that I've mentioned so far, just because the talent and how well those guys have been playing, because E United 100 Thieves have looked like two of the best in probably the top 5 out of the professional orgs who are the top dogs that we saw in that 2500 Prodown. So I think Pool A is the group of death before this one, but FaZe is playing pretty well, and I mean, for all I know, Pool C, depending on how things work out and who gets in, I think a play-in winner may be able to come out of pool play and make it to the winner's bracket, because I think there's 2 teams that can kind of make waves in pool play, and I'll get to them last, but Pool C is kind of an unknown for me. I like FaZe Clan, and I think I like Team Envy, but it's a toss-up, and a play-in winner goes into that bracket. I think they can make some waves and win there. And the final one we have to talk about now is Pool D. So Splice played really well in the 2500 Prodown. They're in Pool D. And then OpTic Gaming got drawn in, and G2 Esports. So those are some big names, but OpTic is the favorite. OpTic is the favorite for CWL Vegas just because of what they've been able to do to teams online and just absolutely annihilate guys. They're clicking on all cylinders, playing really smart Call of Duty, and they're just grinding the game, because I think the difference is they're having a lot of fun with it. You know, Seth is having a lot more fun than he did with World War II. So I think that's just a big thing. You're not dreading to go and practice day in and day out. You're ready to grind and you're hyped to get out there and be like, heck yeah, let's go scrim, let's go play some COD. I'll pub stomp for a little bit. I'm literally on for 12 hours today. And I think that's what it comes down to. A lot of these up and coming players that we've seen come onto the scene, the younger guys, Kenny, esports rookie of the year, it just comes down to grinding the game and putting in all the work and the time. And a lot of these guys, I think, got complacent last year with World War II, and they didn't like the game, and they thought their gun skill could just sort of get them through it. And that's just not the case, and that's not the way it's going to work. So OpTic Gaming, I think that's the difference maker. They've enjoyed this Call of Duty, and they've been grinding it out. So I think they're the favorites for Pool D. I mean, Splice, you still have Jerd, Accuracy, Looney, Aqua, and the man Donnie Temp, but I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be able to compete with OpTic. I know two come out of the pool play, but OpTic is definitely the number one seed and the favorite. And Splice is another team that you look at where the regional rules from the past don't come into fruition, and they'll have a shot to put together a nice team, and they have with some of these guys, Looney, Aqua, and Accuracy and Temp, picking them up to go along with Jerd. I think that's a big move for Splice, and they'll be another exciting team to watch this year. But this first LAN of the season is the feeler. It's the one where anyone can make the prediction that they want to and the favorites based on online, but you're going to be surprised that somebody is going to pop off, and it might not even be OpTic Gaming to win, although my prediction would be OpTic Gaming comes out champs of this event, and you know, I think they're going to win a couple championships this year. But like I said, this is the feeler. This is the learning event. This is where the meta is kind of portrayed, because you see the meta online and how everything's been going, but there will be different strats pulled out by other teams that different guys will like to sink their teeth into and try out in the scrims for the ongoing CWL season. So those are my predictions for the pool so far, but we have to talk lastly about the play-in bracket, because those teams will get in, and I think a couple of them can give these big dogs a run for their money. So the guys in the play-in matches are Impact, 3G, Tainted Minds, Gone Gaming, Imperial, UIU, Mind Freak, and Spacely's team. Still Orgless. I literally don't know how. We talked about those guys winning the 2K, but they're a great team. They have sheer talent, and Nameless on the drawing today, when they did that on Call of Duty's channel on Twitch, he said that he teamed with Havoc, and all the skill is there. He's a really good player, but some rookies, it just takes a little bit longer time to develop. I think Havoc is out of the developmental stage now. I think he's a smart player, he's more mature, and he's ready to be on the main stage yet again in this Call of Duty. So Spacely's team, I'm picking them as one of them to get out of the play-in matches, and then I'll give it to UIU and Tainted Minds. Other than that, the fourth team, it's going to be a battle for them, but I think those are my three favorites to go ahead and get out of the play-in matches, and I think Spacely's team and UIU are the two that are going to be able to make pool play noise. I think that those guys have a good enough roster where they might be able to dominate and surprise some teams and make it out of pool play into the winner's bracket, maybe find themselves in a T16, T8 situation, and who knows, they could pop into the Final Four. But those are my predictions so far for CWL Vegas, and that's the last topic of the day. I'm so excited to be back. I cannot describe to you how hype I was to get back in front of the microphone and on camera this time for the Rotation podcast. Questions and comments and tips, please send them to me on Twitter, the Rotation Podcast with Zach Worhack, or my personal account is at ZHack16, ZHACK16, and then the actual at name for my podcast is Rotation W_ZHack. I know it's a lot. I might look into changing that, but that's the at name for the podcast. So please show some support, give it a like, give me a follow. DM me. I'm really pushing to get some big time guests on. I'm in the works talking to a few of them, and that's what I ultimately want to get to. I want to get to interviews with some of these big name guys, and I want to talk to them and get them to be on the podcast. I'm posting it on YouTube, so that's where the rotation is going to end up. It's just my YouTube channel, Zach Worhack. and the link will be on my Twitter as well. So just follow rotationw_zhack or at zhack16. That's my personal account, and everything will be posted there. I'm putting it on Apple Podcast or iTunes or whatever it is, SoundCloud, and then it'll be on YouTube because I think the visual aspect adds an intimacy. So I appreciate likes, comments, and subscriptions to my channel. As I've mentioned in past podcasts that I've just put on SoundCloud, my dream is to be a caster for Call of Duty, and I showed you a little Maven impersonation earlier in the show. So, I mean, I call play-by-play for sports right now on Fox Sports Arizona and streaming online, and I love it, man. I love calling sports, but my true passion is esports and gaming. So I'm trying to do everything to break out onto the scene, whether it be, doing dirty work with MLG, creating the packages, the behind the scenes stuff, filming, editing. I can do all that. And then I eventually want to build it up to casting. Give me the garbage matches. Give me the tough teams. I don't care. It's my dream. And I'm going to keep podcasting until I get noticed, and I'm going to keep fighting to make my way onto the CWL scene in MLG. So that's the ultimate dream. And, I'm going to keep going, and I'm not going to stop. Right now, this podcast may get 0 views, and it might just be me talking to a microphone, but I'm going to keep improving. I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm not going to get let down. I love talking about all of these Call of Duty topics today. I'm sorry to get so serious and interpersonal with you guys there, but I just had to get it off my chest. So if anyone can help get me in connection with someone to have on as a guest or talk to them about getting a job, please. My account is open. Send me messages. I love talking about all this stuff. I'm so passionate about it. Give me your opinion on who's going to make it out of pool play, who's going to win CWL Vegas, what you think about gentlemen's agreements and everything I talked about so far. The greatest rivalry in esports is in the making. 100 Thieves and OpTic Gaming, not just in Call of Duty, but it is going to be esports wide. I guarantee that it'll eventually happen with Nadeshot and Hex. Those two guys, they'll be butting heads for the rest of eternity, or as long as they are together and fighting with their organizations against one another. Like I said, I loved it. It was a great episode of the Rotation podcast today with me, Zach Worhack, and I'm excited for the next one. So excited for CWL Vegas. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. It means a lot. Like I mentioned again, share the podcast with your friends that are into esports, smash the like button, and please subscribe to me and follow me on social media with YouTube and Twitter. Thank you so much, everyone. I love it. I love talking esports. I'm out of here. See you next time.